Okay, now we are recording, and this is the local politics info session here with Ernestine Lyons. I am a councilwoman here in the city of Harper Woods, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the first slide and then do a little introduction of myself. And then as more folks come in, we can, just get the ball rolling and they can jump right in. And I do like to have these be a little more interactive so that people can, really help collaborate and work together to answer questions, and then to also, ideas if there's anything you like to see out here in the city or any changes, you should be able to approach your elected officials like myself and to, work on those things. And that's why we're here. We're here to serve you guys. And hello, welcome. We have another person, David. You have joined us. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the slide. This thing is blocking my slideshow. Okay, so can everybody see the slide?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. All right, so welcome to the local politics information session. And the tagline here is to be informed, be involved, and be the change. So being the change we seek to find out there in the world. I think, civic engagement, especially on a day like today, where you're voting, you want to find the changes and the solutions collaboratively, to the problems that we're facing, and to, systemic injustice, and to, just understanding how to really be an informed citizen and what power you actually have. So for that purpose, last year I started these local politics info sessions because I always encourage folks to, feel empowered and to feel, a sense of, that you have agency to go out there and effectively change our own communities, and then also, put pressure on your elected officials to, also bring about that change. And if there's something you'd like to see, then, we can all work together. So just a little bit about my background. I have always loved politics, especially, presidential elections. I was always obsessed when I was a kid, and just like the electoral process and the transition of power. I remember I wanted to vote for Ross Perot when I was like 6 because he was the shortest guy in the 92, debates between George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. And I was always a short kid. So I was just like, I want the little guy to win. And so I was just kind of fascinated. And from there, I went to school. I got a bachelor's degree in international relations, and then a master's in public policy and government from Wayne State University. And I was able to travel around the world and study economic systems and political, upheaval in places like South Africa and Russia. I lived and worked and researched in China, and and looking at authoritarian governments. I did my master's thesis was on counter-hegemonic institutions. So it's almost like looking at the way that power structure is all relegated to, either one or another, and whoever is the dominant force is the ones that get to make the rules. So my research was primarily focused there. And I always kind of dreamed of working in, government, like in the big government, meaning the State Department or somewhere like that. And it just wasn't happening for me. So I kind of started leaning in locally. I started coming to more council meetings. I joined the planning commission here in Harper Woods. And from there, I saw that, if there's something that doesn't exist here, why not create it? I know that there are little cities that do creative things that I would love it if Harper Woods could do more of those. So the first thing I did when I first started really getting involved locally was create a storytelling bike tour, which was, a bike riding tour around Harper Woods. And we stopped at, prominent members of the community or just regular folks who wanted to tell a story that was cute or unique or something special about Harper Woods or why they loved Harper Woods. And so all of the people on the bikes, they got to stop at each house, and they got on the porch or near the porch, and then they heard a story, and then they kept moving along. And at the end, I don't know if you guys know St. Sabas Monastery on Old Homestead, but it is beautiful. And the tour ended there, where the participants of the bike tour got to have a lunch at the end of the tour at St. Sabas, which was like really delicious. And also people were always wondering, what is this place? You know, a lot of people don't know it's a monastery. And you know, just so they got to tour Harper Woods, they got to see this, and you know, this is something we'd like to replicate again. So, but that was the beginning for me of being kind of an agent for change and being somebody who is involved and creating something that, you know, wasn't there. All right. So without further ado, just here's a quote here just to kind of open things up. When nobody gets left behind, everybody moves forward. So I think this kind of shows that, you know, we're a multicultural community. It's all about being a collective body that, you know, we're all advocating for each other and we're moving forward as one. So here's just an overview I want to give on the structure of government that we have here in the city of Harper Woods. So in particular, you know, we have what's called council manager system. So that's also called in like the Michigan Municipal League and the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, a lot of other government entities call that a weak mayor system, which means that, you know, the responsibilities of the city go to a administrator who is appointed to kind of handle the day-to-day. And so that person is actually a city manager. And the city manager is appointed by city council and serves as the city's chief executive officer. And like I said, he's responsible, or she, or whoever it may be, is responsible for, you know, making sure that the operations of the city, you know, kind of adopt certain policies or various statutes. And so that person is responsible for being the chief enforcer. It supervises like the law enforcement and the ordinances, and, you know, being the chief administrator, and is a politically impartial person who kind of carries out all of the administrative things. And so the opposite of a council manager system would be the mayor council government. And that's what you see mostly in large cities like, for example, Warren with Jim Fouts or Detroit with Mike Duggan. That is a strong mayor system. And, you know, the city charter, the way that it was set up in 1951 for the city of Harper Woods specifically, it set up a, you know, city manager system. And, you know, from there, you kind of get into a little bit more about what the council does. So council and mayor, we have 6 council members and 1 mayor. So that equals 7 members of the legislative body. And that legislative body in a weak mayor system, their responsibilities are all to do with, you know, adopting laws, ordinances, and resolutions. And it's being, you know, the legislators. So we are the ones who carry out the laws. We propose things, we have amendments, and we have also motions that we make, and we have ordinances and things that we can propose, resolutions. And so generally, like, council members can serve either a 2-year term or 4-year terms. For the most part, it's going to be 4-year terms. 2 years sometimes arise, and sometimes there are vacancies. Like in this case, we have a vacancy, and so then you'll have a special election like we just had, or a special council meeting to determine what's going to be the moves going forward. We also had this happen last year, or not last year, I want to say it was 2018, when Hugh Marshall, you know, he moved away from Harper Woods and he left a vacancy on council. So then that was up to, you know, council had to have a special meeting to be able to fill that void. So if anybody's here has been to council meetings, we have what's called Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure. And so when you hear like, oh, we call the council to order, I'd like to make a motion, and, you know, we have to say, Madam Mayor or Mr. Mayor, you know, I'd like to table this item, and I'd like to make a motion for adjournment, and all of those things, it kind of helps keep things flowing smoothly. And then there's also a written record of who made what motion and what's on the table and what the discussion is, so that things stay, you know, orderly. Now, as far as the mayor, the responsibilities are not the same, because it's, as a big city mayor, because of the fact that it's a, you know, the council is there for legislative purposes, and then the city manager is there to carry out all of the executive decisions. So the mayor has little formal authority really outside of the council. And, you know, this is kind of a system where when you're in a small municipality, you're gonna have that city council and city manager relationship where, you know, the mayor is really just a glorified member of council. So the mayor definitely, you know, you need the mayor's signature on a lot of official documents, and the mayor is probably the one that's first consulted. I know during the coronavirus pandemic, our mayor was, you know, being consulted about, you know, just what are some of the updates, and people typically go to that person. But, you know, just to let folks out there know that pretty much it is a symbiotic relationship. But at the same time, the city manager serves at the pleasure of council because he's an appointed person, and council is, you know, and mayor are selected by the public. So we serve the public, and then the city manager in turn serves us and the community in the, you know, city. So, and if you guys have any questions, you know, there's definitely going to be room at the end for like any questions as far as collaborations or ideas. But you know, if you got burning questions, feel free to, you know, chime in and ask about those. Okay. So moving right along to boards and commissions. There are about 9 boards and commissions in the city of Harper Woods. And so they're the Board of Review, the Brownfield Board, which is like brownfield abatements and, you know, things that have to do with, you know, pollution and things that have, you know, eroded the confidence in the site. And so if you get a brownfield, you can get tax abatements and things of that sort. Then there's a Construction Board of Appeals, Recreation Board, Beautification Commission, Local Officers Compensation Commission, Planning Commission, Ordinance Committee, Library Board, Ordinance, let's see, because I've got Ordinance, then Historical Commission, and then the Election Commission. So I put these ones here on the slide because, oh, I'm sorry, actually, it's the next slide. It's because there are vacancies here. So if you're looking for a way to get more involved in the city of Harper Woods and, you know, just the everyday management and have more of a voice, then this is where a lot of the, you know, little decisions that really make a big impact happen. So the Ordinance Committee, the Board of Review, Brownfield Authority, Construction Board of Appeals, Recreation Advisory Board, those ones all have vacancies, so you can feel free to apply. And then you'll be subject to like an interview and, you know, go from there. So the next part is boards and commissions and departments. So the departments here in the city serve various functions. Like I know a lot of some of the complaints that we may get from citizens are about things like getting citations, or, you know, having grass that's too long, or having neighbors who are just, you know, just doing crazy things like parking on our lawn. And that comes under the purview of, you know, the city, and then the Department of Public Works. So they handle things like infrastructure, water and sewage, trash and refuge collection. And then there's kind of a quasi-governmental relationship with a contractor called Safe Built. And, you know, I see David's face when I mention Safe Built, but they are contracted to help with code enforcement. And so that is technically, you know, they're contracted with the city, but it used to be the Department of Public Works that handle all of that. And so they kind of work in tandem now. And then there's the Office of the City Clerk, where, you know, the city clerk pretty much handles, they work right under the city manager, and they handle everything that has to do with, you know, administrative and clerical tasks for the city. Leslie Frank is amazing. And she takes notes at every council meeting. She also takes notes at the various boards and commission meetings, and then kind of files away things and puts out notices. Like, for example, there's a vacancy on council because when Mayor Pointer resigned and Councilwoman Kendall was appointed to mayor, or voted in as mayor, that vacancy now, the city clerk will go and post and say, if you'd like to apply for that, you can email her, and then, then council will have a special meeting to appoint a new person to serve out the remainder of Valerie Kendall's term. So that's kind of the city clerk. Then there's finance. They handle all the money, just, straight and forward. Parks and Recreation is, so there's the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. So yeah, I feel like that's one of those ones where it's nebulous, because not only are they a department, but they also have an advisory board. And I think that's where where if there's something you want to see, like the basketball hoops, that was something that like the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board would meet, and then, they would talk with the department. And so they all inform each other, and they all contribute to how, the city operates on this day-to-day basis and becomes this well-oiled machine, because it's a small town, and, at most we probably have like 20 or 30, employees in all these departments that are working hard and trying to make sure that the city is, a smooth, it's a tight ship that's smooth sailing. So, okay. And I actually got a lot of feedback from, or like input from our Director of Public Safety, Vince Smith, on this section here, just kind of talking about the role of police and fire, which is public safety. So in the past, so like prior to, I want to say 2008, and officially in 2012, so like all in the 90s and everything, there was a police department and then there was a fire department. And so in 2012, both were combined to become public safety. And a lot of other cities in the state of Grosse Pointe and all over Michigan have adopted this public safety. And it had been controversial in the past because of unions. But it's something that, when you have public safety, you're having officers who are cross-trained, and so they can all handle each other's responsibilities, or at least that's how it should work in theory. And so here in the city of Harper Woods, we have 26 full-time sworn police officers. 7 of them are part-time officers. And then here for our fire, we have 6 full-time firefighters, and 2 of them are on duty. So like on every day, there's going to be at least 2 firefighters on duty. And that's kind of like their job is to respond to medical emergencies and things of that sort, and fight fires, of course. So, okay. So here's Vince Smith, our public safety director, who was sworn in last year. And the title of public safety director, like I said, has only been around since 2012. Before then, there was a chief of police and a fire chief. So this is a quote from our public safety director when I asked, what are some things that you're advocating for, or things that you'd like to see as far as policing? He is an amazing guy, and I think that one of the things that he's really pushing for is community policing. And this is a great quote. The founder of modern policing, Sir Robert Peel, is believed to have said, police are the public and the public are the police. So we have to work with each other and, really support that system of let's be the best versions of ourselves, so that, everybody can really benefit from a peaceful society where, they're free from the threat of harm. And also, the role of law enforcement in a free society is to promote public safety and uphold the rule of law so that individual liberty may flourish. And so, there's a lot of effort on the part of the police to be more involved in the community and to be the type of police who are, I don't know if you guys have seen, but, they play basketball with the kids at, the parks, and, they're just really active, especially during like National Night Out, which, historically is just all about supporting the police. We'll see how that's going to look with the pandemic, if National Night Out is something that, continues. But all right, so that is our public safety. And one thing now, I really encourage everybody to, kind of tell us what you'd like to see. Let's brainstorm on how we can make the city better. Are there things that, you wish were, different about the city, and things that, are great about the city? What are some of your thoughts, feedback, and, how can we just create this unified community that's really out here making good in the world? Anybody want to chime in?
Sure, I will. I think having forums like this where people feel like they have a place where they can reach out to somebody who is on council when they do have a concern is really important and really valuable. And hopefully COVID doesn't last too long, so more people will attend. I also do wish that there was like one place where people could go to like put certain complaints, because I feel like as a city, we have like so many different Facebook groups, which are good to see where everything is, but it would be nice if there was one more central modern location to like air concerns or questions or let people know what was going on. Maybe just a little bit more of a modern way of keeping in communication, I think would be really great.
I'm gonna keep pushing for Instagram and maybe even the TikTok. Yeah. Thanks for the comment there. Hey, how's it going?
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. Hi, I just want to echo what Katie said. Really, I think having some modernized communication methods really, I think, will help people connect with the city and connect with what it takes to run the city. The challenge right now, I think, is especially kind of in the wake of current political events that have happened in Harbor Woods. Some of that I think has been charged up because there wasn't sort of an official response. And so what became the official response were the actions of the mayor and other things. And I just feel like that, sorry, my friend's dog, that's part of what made this all kind of intense. And if the city had venues for having kind of more accessible conversation, that will allow, I mean, because I come from an IT background and sometimes we don't always have an answer, but we always try to check in and say, we're moving forward, this is what we're working on. That dialogue lets people know you're working. And I know you're working because I'm on the Facebook groups and I'm, I've been able to meet some of the council members virtually. We have these opportunities, but I think more transparency for that will just kind of take the pressure off, especially as you're navigating sort of the waters of like, what's going on with Priscilla Slater, and as we move forward with a new mayor and kind of the new direction, the opportunity for new direction that allows. I had a lot to say, sorry.
No need to apologize at all, because this is the place to do it. A lot of times, people say, oh, if you're upset or if you have something to say, go to council meetings. And sometimes council meetings, because of Robert's Rules of Order, you do have to wait, and there's protocols, and I'd like to have more there. At least that's my aim, because being a millennial, I think sometimes using more technology to be able to interact with people and meet them on their terms is great to kind of hear all the voices. And so, like, shoot, say whatever you want and talk as much as you want to, because it's all about collaboration. And this is something I've noticed, that people like state senators Adam Hollier and Stephanie Chang, they have a lot of workshops in their communities with their constituents, and they'll sit there with dry erase boards when there's no COVID, or at least in the past. They'll brainstorm, and they'll have all of these committees and subcommittees. And I think David can attest to this, that sometimes we get a little bit more of this kind of collaboration with meetings like the NEDC, and Katie too has been at NEDC meetings, and there's more free flow of ideas, but there's also, like, I like to at least inform people about some of these things, because I feel like being somebody who's getting involved and not necessarily knowing that this is how you do and that's how you do, you just don't know how much you don't know. And then it also discourages you if you feel that well, I went and, you know, I tried to speak when I first got to the meeting and they told me I couldn't, so I just didn't go anymore. But it's like, well, there's a moment for public comment and, you know, you just kind of got to, you know, wait for it. So I think it's a good way to understand, you know, one, like what these boards and things do and what their purposes are to, you know, be able to help mitigate, you know, new and creative things that you want to see and kind of like usher them into, you know, what we need and what the community wants. Because sometimes, you know, there can be a lack of, you know, folks who show up and tell us what they want to see, you know, because, you know, we do have like a lot of folks who are volunteers who've been really active in the community, and they're the same folks who show up and they're always there and they're always giving their opinion, but then we don't know what the rest of everybody else wants. So it's like that 20% and then the 80% we don't know. So I'm just like, all right, let me go out there and find out. And, you know, even if it means just kind of like going to where the people are and creating forums for everybody to be heard, I think it's important. So any other thoughts?
Yeah, I got one.
Mm-hmm.
Is my speaker working?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
You're just a little low though.
I am. Hold on.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Better?
Mm-hmm. I'm just
Okay.
gonna put the phone in silent.
Yeah, I pretty much know how all the system so far works with the boards and commissions. You know, and we are in dire need of getting some of the younger folks. We've had, you know, older folks like they barbecue hamburgers and hot dogs for over 200 people, and they've been doing this religiously at every event. So we really got to find out a way to get the newer, younger folks involved who want to give back to the community too. And as you know, as far as the city council meetings, I think it's pretty much known where I stand there. I do want more transparency in this city. I've been fighting for that for a couple of years. Since COVID came, I have been fighting really hard to be some transparency on where we stand with Eastland, or, you know, where we stand with the rollout plan, what's our numbers, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a very important part, is the transparency. And I also see that Nixel has been starting to be used a little bit better for the public service announcements than just crime. Because, you know, originally what we were told, what Nixel's purpose was, to see it now used in a public service fashion is actually helpful, because that's fact that we can share with other neighbors, whether it be in a Facebook group or whatever. That's all.
Thank you for that. And so, you know, I know that I initially, like when the our recycling program had ended, I had a lot of little workshops with Councilwoman Pies, who's also a environmental advocate. And, you know, we explored a couple of options. We had, you know, we had all these ideas on the, as a matter of fact, the whiteboard papers are still sitting over here on my desk. And we explored them, and we couldn't do anything at that moment. But I think it's still, now it's up to taking it to the next step, which is to go to our state reps and go to our state senators, because, you know, we've looked at all the options that we can do. And that included partnering with Detroit and taking to recycling centers there, you know, maybe having some sort of, you know, I think it was helpful to also have the Buy Nothing group, where people started swapping and things like that. And encouraging people to be more, you know, just conscious of, I know I try to be zero and, you know, buy things like, you know, this, where, you know, you're just going to be carrying around this as opposed to a bunch of plastic bottles. And this is something that, you know, I think it would be nice to be able to revisit this with some of the other council folks, and see what we can do. But it does, I think it looks like it's going to have to be something that's escalated up to, you know, other higher powers in local politics, because when you look at national trends across America, we're actually seeing that recycling is becoming more and more difficult, because Americans kind of stopped recycling the right way back in, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, as opposed to throwing away pizza boxes that, you know, had grease and things, they would still have food in them. And then once they're contaminated, they're actually just thrown into the regular trash. And so we were paying for a service that actually wasn't even happening. So the trash was ending up in landfills as opposed to being repurposed, refurbished, and, you know, recycled. So I think we can start another campaign to reduce, reuse, and repurpose, and try to adopt more zero waste methods and measures. But it's also, when you look at it, we had a lot of emerging markets and developing economies like China and India that were taking our trash that are no longer doing this because of either trade impositions or because of political kind of relations that have deteriorated, or the fact that they just don't want to do it anymore because, you know, they have higher standards now and they don't want garbage. So I think it really does call on the United States and, you know, for our, you know, elected officials and in Congress and in the Senate, you know, to advocate for having more green options and green technology available so that we can repurpose things. So I know I'm still committed to recycling, but it is something that does have to be revisited because, you know, we tried, we looked into all these options, and now it's like, all right, now we're just gonna have to escalate this to option B, because option A, you know, we tried all of the things that were workshop and, you know, it just didn't really equal anything. So are there any other things? Because I know a lot of times when I'm like going on my walks and I'll be like, oh, hi. And then, you know, people are like, oh, you're a councilwoman. Like, what about recycling? So that is one that I get a lot. Any other questions that maybe your neighbors or you have about, you know, just burning questions about our community or things you'd like to see?
I would like to add that maybe in the future, if we could, like, I know that we, because of COVID, been doing city council meetings via Zoom, but I mean, people, I think, are more inclined to gauge if there's a path of least resistance. And granted, I mean, even before COVID, I was trying to be more aware of my community, but I have to be honest, the digital accessibility of this has really made it where I'm engaging, and I'm younger. I'm 36, you know, but I'm part of that younger generation. And my memory of city council meetings, granted, I didn't grow up here, but I just remember it being, you know, a lot of conversation and a lot of back and forth. And sometimes things would get done, sometimes they wouldn't. I mean, and maybe that's, you know, still somewhat the quintessential experience, but adding that digital element, I think, at least so people can observe it. And it's taking away another barrier and allowing people to engage. And I think people like you and other people on council seem very very on board with that. So the more I think we move in that direction, we take down the barriers that prevent people from having the knowledge or being able to engage.
One, I just want to say you look way younger than 36. I thought you were going to say like 24 or 27 or something. And I'm like, what?
Bless your heart. Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And I think in some ways it can be intimidating. I know I used to shake and get nervous every time I would go and approach the council. And I remember one time the council admonished this one girl and kind of like, she walked up and was like, hey guys, I just wanted to, and she was, they tore into her. It's like, first of all, you don't address the council as you guys. And, you know, it was just some of the protocol and things, I think, you know, to your point, Lauren, that, you know, you were saying other councils and, you know, growing up somewhere else, I feel like I've been to enough council meetings where it's just about the same across the board. And I think there does have to be maybe an evolution where it becomes like more of a move for maybe some of the millennial council folks and, you know, to remove the barriers and to be the person that is approachable and you can just ask me, because I know for any of you guys, ask me any question anytime, and you know, most of the time I'm online all hours of the day and I'm accessible and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And, you know, I think that's really important to kind of, you know, have accessibility. And I think that's kind of special and singular about Harper Woods. It's such a small town. You can make a big impact because you can get to know people super quick, and you have that rapport with real people who aren't just going to be political figureheads who are just going to be like, nice to meet you, and then you never really interact with them again. So I think that's important. And so I do want to have these sort of collaborations be something that happen maybe monthly or bi-monthly, so that we can discuss issues relevant to Harper Woods and get more feedback, and just kind of grow that. And I have a picture here of the Harper Woods soup, which I found it, and I got, went around to different city councils and tried to get buy-in, and then got buy-in from my council. And I feel like one person who was super, super on board with this was, our now former mayor and his wife, and they just kind of jumped on board. And, a lot of other people in the community were just like, we love the idea. And so the idea behind it is, it's a micro renting dinner. So, you come in, you pay $5 for the cost of a soup dinner. And then you hear business pitches. So for people who want to do something creative in Harper Woods, whether it's, do a mural on the basketball court, or if it's start a cupcake shop on Kelly Road, that specializes in vegan and plant-based desserts. So we hear from all of those ideas, and then the public gets to vote on those. And then whoever has the best idea and the highest amount of votes, they actually win all of the money that's raised that night. To go towards whatever that business idea is. And we even took it a step further towards the later ones that actually got canceled. We were going to host at the Harper Woods high schools, the one that used to be Circuit City, the CCI Center, College and Career Institute. It was sending the winners of SOUP to take business classes. So there are actually 6-week business classes that are hosted by an organization called Build Institute. And if you're familiar with like Tech Town and all of these places, they have business incubating kind of classes and all kinds of things. So the people who would win, not only would they be given seed money, but they would also get to take a business class. So they walk away with, a viable business model, and, planning for marketing and for anything that they want to do with that. So I think now that it was originally planned for like March, and we had 2 of them last year that were really successful, really good food. We had live musical performances, and, it got really competitive and fun. But so the one in February got canceled. And now I think we're just going to move to like a digital sort of small business showcase for small businesses here. I know there are a lot of talented people who have things online, and if you guys either have something or know anybody, then we can just showcase all of Harper Woods' talent and try to get more support for those business ideas, and hopefully see you in a storefront on Kelly Road. And I know this was a proposal that I submitted to our city manager, and we had a couple of businesses that used to be food trucks that were lined up, and COVID. So it was hero versus villain. We would have loved to have them in Harper Woods. I know they have really, really great food. And oh my gosh, Fran, are you there? Hi.
Yeah, I've been here for a while.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, look at all these people. We have, is that Hattie? Or Mary Beth?
Yep, Mary Beth.
Okay, nice. Thank you guys for coming. So I think I just shifted the view of what I can see. So,
I wanted to ask a question. That's why my hand was up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna harp on Harper Woods Soup. You said that it was gonna go to more of a digital thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't want to talk about details about this now as they are developing.
We can.
Well, how about this? How about you and I talk at a later date, because this is my day 2 on chemo week. So we can talk about it. I'd like to get more into the technical details with you. because, you know, I'm probably the only Gen Xer in Harper Woods that loves the internet. Like, I can't live without it. Anyway, so the other thing that I wanted to say is thank you so much to David Callis and the other mods for starting Buy Nothing. You had mentioned that earlier. They are providing, I'm not a member, I'm just a person that goes and tries to get rid of my extra thing.
Yeah.
But thank you, Dave, and the other people that are doing it, because we can conserve. Comes into the recycling and reusing. We can give somebody something that they need for their children starting back to school, maybe some food until they get their, you know, their next installation on their food card. You know, my mom was on food stamps and she was really happy for neighbors that would contribute to our plates, you know, whenever. So there's a lot of things that we're doing right now. The only thing that I was concerned with is telling people about it. Mary Beth says when she found out about these things that were better accessible to her, like Zoom meetings like this or things online, she was more apt to go. You know, it took us 6 weeks to start going to council meetings, and then 2.5 years later, you know, we got COVID and now we can't go. We just go to the ones online. But I just think that going forward and dealing with the things that we have to deal with that you've already spoken about can be focused upon, because we're not focusing on putting out all these little fires. It's like, let's start here and people will work over here. And, you know, it's kind of like a spiral, and we work down to the bottom and then we go back up again and kind of have a rest, because a lot of the changes that are going on right now are survival changes.
Right.
So as long as we know that we're all kind of going to the same goal, which is get through this with the least, I don't even know what word to use, badness as possible.
Resistance.
And I just want to get back to what Mike and I want to do with Beaconsfield Farms, is teach people how to grow vegetables for themselves. We're not in it for the money, but I'm a Harper Woods 2-time loser. And the next time, no, girl, don't look at me like that. The next time we have
Fran pitched Harper Woods soup the first 2, and you know, she gets better every time. And that's the thing, though. I feel like I got the idea from soup because I failed twice at
right.
and pitched in Detroit, and then just brought it here because, you know, you don't give up.
This isn't okay. This is not about me. This is about what we want to do. We don't want to see kids walking around in the summertime with no food. Mm-hmm. The schools can only provide so much, and they do such hard work to give these kids meals for the summertime. But our hope is if we can teach people just to, you know, a couple of plants. They don't even have to go in the ground. They can go in great big gigantic pots. And we received donations from Mrs. Paez and Dave Callis and some other residents of containers that we've already used for some of the residents. So I just want to give the opportunity that I had when I was growing up to learn how to do something for me and my family, when right now all I'm seeing is people really kind of panicking. I kind of want to bring that down. How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to clothe my kids? So, I mean, we don't even have kids, so we have grandkids. So figure that out.
It's a valid concern, because, you know, we went through a period where a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, were suffering, and they were looking for assistance from the government, and there were PPP funds, and there were, you know, a lot of, you know, programs that came out of that. And I was really proud of our government for stepping up and being there for the small business community. But it's like we're not out of this. We're still, you know, we're not out of the woods yet. So I think it's important to kind of revive things like this, so that we as a community can kind of, you know, support creative things that are happening, and you know, just be there for all of the businesses that are, you know, in need. And I think it's also another thing about sustainability. You know, if we don't have recycling, and, you know, we can't get it back in the near future, it's important to be able to shop locally, because that lessens the impact of our carbon footprint on the planet. And, you know, that sustainability is, you know, not only protecting your own backyard and your community, but it's also, you know, giving to, you know, the planet, and, you know, just making us better and better equipped to be able to, you know, to not be that big polluter that's out there, you know, needing to get everything from everywhere else when we can be self-sustaining. So thank you for that, Fran.
Yep.
And now that I see that we do have other folks on, if you guys want to, you know, comment or add anything, I had my screen all minimized because I was sharing with the presentation, and I didn't see that we had so many other folks on the line here. So I'm excited. Yay.
First, I got a question about the recycling.
Mm-hmm.
With the recycling, I'm just going to be blunt about it. Our city is like the only one going through it. The city of St. Clair Shores, my sister just got a letter from them stating if you continue to use pizza box and not clean your cans and jars, that they were contemplating getting rid of the program. It's not so much that GFL is giving up on the program. They're not. They're still recycling. And I thought there was some kind of deal that the points were going to make to where all of us could come together, and the cost would still be about, you know, between $5 and $6 per resident, which most of us said we would pay in the past.
So with that, you know, I think the city, before I was on council, made the decision
Yes.
to, you know, that the cost, you know, wasn't going to make a difference if the trash was going to end up in the same place because it was contaminated. And because, you know, I think, you know, the Grosse Pointes, and to your point, St. Clair Shores, and I know that now Detroit, under, you know, over the past maybe 5 years, they've had a very concentrated effort going towards re-educating people when it comes to recycling and letting them know that you can't put, you know, dirty plastic bottles that are soiled in there or they won't be recycled. And I think it has to come down to maybe re-education. I remember when I was a kid, we used to watch Captain Planet, and he kind of taught us about what needs to go where, and recycling wasn't something, you know, that we had a ton of knowledge on, but we were being taught, you know, the right way to do it. And so I think the rationale behind ending the program is, you know, that we were pretty much having the trash go in the same place. And that's not to say that this can't be revisited. And I would love it if we could revisit it and then re-educate the folks to make sure that our trash isn't ending up, you know, GFL isn't just taking it to the same place. And, you know, even though we're paying more, and that was the rationale, it's like we were paying more for something that wasn't happening. And, you know, so really it can be revisited, but I think it'll also take a concerted effort to be able to, you know, make a widespread public education push and maybe public service announcements to tell people this is where you want to put your glass, and this is where you want to put your, you know, your plastic, and you want to make sure that people know about these things. Mm-hmm. Thank you, David, for that question. Great. Any other folks have anything to add or questions? Okay. Well, now this is my call to action. So how you can get involved is pretty much coming to council meetings, of course, getting on the boards and commissions, whether the Board of Review, the Construction Board of Appeals. Historical Commission is kind of defunct. It technically doesn't have members because the Heritage Room is currently, it needs some repairs, and they're actually in the 2020 budget, we did put aside some money for, you know, the Heritage Room specifically to have a whole new plan. And that's actually something I think I would like to follow up with our, you know, city manager on to see, like, what's the status of that? Are we still going, you know, with that plan? But that historical commission actually doesn't meet. But then there's election ordinance and, you know, just planning. I started on planning commission, and there were a lot of, you know, neat things that, you know, the city had to consider as to what we wanted to see in the city. I remember when Macy's first went out of business, something came to the planning commission where they wanted to put a giant storage kind of like Simply Self-Serve or Simply Self-Storage, or what's the other one? It was like where you got all the storage stuff and you can put all of your things, and we just kind of were like, well, we'd like to see something else, but either way, they ended up not coming to Harper Woods. But you know, you make those kind of decisions. You decide what comes here. You decide, like when the Taco Bell was going under renovation, we decided, you know, whether everything that they were doing was up to code, or if that was something that, you know, we wanted to see here, and how many parking spots they should have, or what the flow of traffic should be, or if it was going to congest things up. And then the other thing is the Neighborhood Economic Development Coalition. If you join that, I think we definitely have more robust conversations, especially when we meet in person. You know, there are subcommittees, and, you know, all of the subcommittees, for example, there is a Beautiful Neighborhoods Committee. In addition to the commission, there is a Beautification Commission that has been around since Harper Woods was founded in, you know, 1951. There is the Beautiful Neighborhoods. There is the Education Commission, the Crime Reduction and Law Enforcement Commission, and then there's the Activities and Functioning Infrastructure and Services. So all of these subcommittees, people are volunteers. They get together, they come up with ideas, and you can contribute to the conversation on like what you'd like to see in Harper Woods, or, you know, what we can do better, or how we can collaborate. And the group meets monthly at the location at 200010 Kelly Road, which is where there's like the big giant Harper Woods logo, and then there's the public safety. There's always going to be a public safety officer there at that building, and it kind of was put there as a deterrent for, you know, crime on Kelly. So those are ways that, you know, you can get involved, and you can, you know, have your voice heard and be a part of, you know, just what shapes our community. So that is definitely, that's my presentation. And, you know, I, you know, wanted to make sure that everybody knows, you know, what their city does, how their city is working for them, how we can all move forward together. And I know that there's been a lot of controversy in the city. There's been a lot of turmoil and a lot of media scrutiny that our quiet little bedroom community, as they call it, you know, hasn't really ever had to face before, because, you know, we're just a little town. So but we can navigate through this together, and, you know, actively have more constructive conversations around things that are pressing, you know, issues for the city, and we can model the way forward together. So thank you guys for your time, and if you have more questions, I'm here. And this is recorded, so if you missed any part of it, you know, I can send the recording, and, you know, that way everybody can see it and be informed.
Oh, Ernestine, can I say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Just so folks know, and I mentioned this a few times before to residents, if you do miss a council meeting, realize that within like 3 days or so, you can go to the library and check out the DVD, and it's absolutely free. There's no charge to it. You can keep it for almost 4 to 5 days. That's all. Thank
you for that. And also thank you, David, for like all that you do with you know, the Facebook groups, because, you know, I've been advocating for an official, you know, city Facebook group that would be kind of like the way corporations like a Nike or a McDonald's has a Facebook page, where they just kind of let you know what the company is doing. Kind of a little bit like our, you know, quarterly newsletter, the Insider. But it's something that just kind of has some fun updates about, you know, our city, and relevant information like where you can go to pay your water bill, and things like that. So, you know, just kind of having that information. And, you know, but I think the community Facebook pages are great for robust debate. And I think I always encourage people, don't sweat the small stuff when sometimes these debates kind of take on a life of their own. Because I think all of our hearts are in the right place. We all love Harper Woods. So this is part of my effort to make sure that, you know, we're a community that is welcoming everybody, and we're, you know, informing everybody, and that we're taking the time to be the best we can be. And you, sir, I didn't catch your name. Let's see. Anything you'd like to add here? Or questions? Okay. Well, if not, I am going to stop sharing.
Thank you very much for the workshop again, Ernestine.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Talk to y'all later.